This is another episode of Explore Papillion, and we're here at the Butterfly and Pollinator Garden, just north of Veterans Park. It's a new project that was recently finished, part of the Papillion 150 celebration, and I'm here with Carla Rupiper. Carla spearheaded this project with help from a lot of volunteers. Carla, tell me about this garden. It looks awesome.
So this was a Papillion 150 project, as you mentioned, and we were challenged with some kind of a legacy project for the community. Something that would remind everyone of the significance of Papillion 150, the 150th anniversary, and something that would last way beyond that 1 year of 2020, and hopefully would be here for generations. So we started scribbling on paper, and with a great team. I had 2 master gardeners, and then another garden enthusiast like myself, and we just sat down and started putting ideas on paper, and then we met up with the city and Steve Engberg, who is the councilman for this district, District 2, about their thoughts. I also want to mention Tony Gowan. He was very, very instrumental in helping us to find a location that would be ideal. It was Tony that really pointed out that in the original planning of Veterans Park, that this was an open space that was at one time originally intended for a garden someday.
Okay.
And he noted too that this was already an irrigated piece of property.
And there's one other connection there that you guys talked about during the ribbon cutting, which is butterflies kind of have a little bit of significance to veterans, or a little bit of connection to wartime too, as far as a symbol of peace and hope.
Peace and hope, and just future flourishing as a community. I think it was very important too that whatever type of a garden we put here, it would have a connectivity with Veterans Park and the veterans themselves. We wanted this to be a serene and contemplative place.
Mm-hmm.
Butterflies obviously are a connection to the city of Papillion, the name Papillion, and the word butterfly in French. And we wanted to pull all of that together. It was just very important to us that this is a landmark that will tie into Veterans Park.
Well, let's talk about the support that you guys received. It took a lot of donations, and then some donations for the sculpture to make this thing a reality.
Once we had the concept on paper, we then faced the beginnings of COVID and had to stop and make a decision. Are we going to proceed? And we decided, yeah, we can do that. This continues to be a very generous community, and it was still a significant year. We first began planting seeds with all of the community organizations. We went to the Lions, to the Papillion Junior Women's Club, the Midlands Community Foundation. We went to a lot of organizations that support this community and just let them know about this project. And as we got farther along in showing that this was going to be a reality, then they all stepped forward with the beginning dollars to make this a reality. So then we reached out in the midst of COVID, when we were all locked down. We did a letter campaign to those here in the community that we know they show up. Every time you have a major community project, they want to be part of it. And we were very successful, both in terms of the individual donors that we reached out to, as well as the business donors. And so those things combined, we were able to construct this garden in December of 2020.
This has been icing on the cake, really,
It
hasn't
has
it?
been.
So tell me about how this came about.
So our fundraising campaign, if you will, we had 2 phases. The first was we had to build the garden. And then we moved into phase 2, which was to be able to bring this beautiful sculpture forward. This beautiful sculpture is by Matthew Plachuk. He's a well-known sculptor of monumental sculptures really throughout the city and the country. And he is in Omaha. But this particular one, it just spoke to our committee because of the monarch.
Right, absolutely.
Right. So in terms of, we we're asking for major donors to come forward. And we did have two families that stepped forward, the Gary and Deb Shives family. And the other is Rudy and Linda Klopek. Here and both our families are Papillion residents, but both very, very generous. And then so with those two major gifts, plus the multitude of other smaller gifts, but very important and significant, we were able to come forward and be able to purchase this beautiful butterfly.
Who are all the volunteers involved in this garden?
Once we were ready to start putting plants in the ground, and actually even before, we started putting out word that, we know there are gardeners all over. Some of them are members of the garden club. Some of them are members of the Papillion Junior Women's Club. And actually there are many that just do their own gardens and really aren't necessarily members of those individual clubs. So our garden volunteers are really folks from all different groups and even just individuals in the community. In fact, just 2 days ago, there was a gentleman riding his bike through. He said that he's now retired and he loves to garden in his own garden, and he offered his name and his email, and he's on our volunteer list now.
Oh, awesome.
So many people, once they've been here and visited and they see how many folks will come out and just play in the garden with our master gardeners, it's just a lot of fun. If you're a gardener or even a wannabe gardener, this is the place to learn a lot about it.
How does it feel to have the garden done? You've got flowers in it, it looks beautiful, the sculpture's up now. How does it feel to get to this point?
Oh, myself, the committee, our volunteers, we're ecstatic. This is year one, and I think we have surpassed our expectations that the garden would be so full and flourishing.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I think this is going to be an icon in the Papillion community. If you haven't been out here, you haven't seen it, get out here while it's still colorful.
And if anyone is interested in being a volunteer, continuing to be a volunteer, let me know. And we are happy to add you to our list. It's never a mandatory, call of volunteers, but every time I put the call out, we've got people showing up, and they all get to know one another and have fun in the garden.
Great community project.
It is.